If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me tell you about it. It's free, which is amazing. And there are these really cool creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will even distribute your podcast for you, so it's easy to be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get podcasts. And you get to make money with no minimum listenership, which is really cool. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started right away. Yoga teachers, mindfulness leaders, and energy workers, are you ready to stop side hustling and start making an income doing what you love? Welcome to the Marketing Off the Mat podcast. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we'll dive into conversations with successful creatives in wellness, business, marketing, and more to uncover practical methods to take you from A to B and have some fun along the way. My name is Jessica Cross, and I'm so excited to be here with you. Let's dive in. Hey guys, welcome back. It's Jess, and this is Marketing Off the Mat. I am so thrilled to be sharing this incredible conversation that I had with my new best friend, Laura Kasl. You're going to hear, we just had so much fun talking. Laura is an astrology business strategist who helps spiritual entrepreneurs get complete clarity in their business by aligning their natural gifts with their offers and marketing strategy. She is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to marketing and all things astrology and the intersection of the two. We had so much fun talking. You're going to get some incredible actionable tips that you can implement right away into your business just from listening to this episode. So let's go ahead and dive in. Hey, Laura, how are you?
Hi, Jess. So happy to be here. I'm great.
Good. I'm so glad you're here too. Thanks for your time. This is going to be awesome.
So excited. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so we got to hear a little bit about you in the intro, but I would love if you could tell us and everybody who's listening a little bit about you and your career journey and how it brought you to where you are today.
Oh, I would love to. All right. Well, I think the first of my kind. I've never seen anything like it, but I'm an astrology business strategist. And what that means to me, I do have a background in marketing and specifically social media marketing. And I've always been a student of astrology. So for about 15 years. And I have used astrology in every aspect of, big decisions I've made, pretty much every aspect of my life. But for some reason, I wasn't using it to figure anything out with my entrepreneurship. So I was feeling really lost and not even like myself. And I was almost like ready to give up. Just why am I working for myself when it's this difficult? And then I was in this amazing mastermind and it struck me where she was talking about something and she was super fiery, definitely a Leo. And I was like, she likes that because she's a Leo. I wouldn't necessarily be attracted to that as a Virgo. Interesting. So that was like the first little seed. And then I started really, and as a Scorpio, you might know this, when you're almost like channeling an idea or writing something and it's like overtaking your body. That's pretty much how this whole thing came to me. It was just, it was really intuitive and just incredible. So now I help spiritual female entrepreneurs get aligned with their business by understanding their birth chart and their natural gifts, and also discovering and working through any weaknesses they might have and getting them through that and really learning how to live with those things and overcome them.
Oh my gosh. So this is just so juicy. I just love how you had this download and it was kind of like the two worlds were merging and you're like, oh my gosh, this is the thing that I've been waiting for, the clarity. Like that must have been so freeing just to know like these two worlds don't have to be separate.
Yes. And I think you have the perfect audience for this and they probably feel this way. Sometimes you don't think you can bring whatever you call it, spirituality, woo, weird. I call it like, I don't want to freak out the muggles. Like, you know what I mean? Because you never know. But as you know, as a marketer, it's actually better to polarize people because then you won't, I was working with all the wrong people and just values and basic things that they were great people, but it wasn't a vibe. When you work with those people that you're just like, oh, this is my human. And ever since I've been opening up about my astrology and spirituality, the people I'm meeting are just incredible. Like you. Perfect example.
Well, thank you. Thank you for shining your light so I and everybody else could see how incredible you are and just sharing your gifts, because I so agree. It's like you're in kind of, we have our different personas, like our work persona, it's this Jessica, and then our yoga teacher or our spiritual entrepreneur, it's this Jessica. But when we can kind of put the two together, it's like, I don't know, I'm seeing like some sort of like really weird Marvel comic, like in my mind where the two rings come together.
I love
that's
that.
for my nerds out there. But it's
that.
just our light shines through. Finally, we can speak our truth and people are like, yes, I want that.
Absolutely.
And thanks for hanging in with my weird analogy.
Well, I said muggles first, so I was like, we're gonna go there.
I knew we were gonna be friends. So good. Okay, so all right, tell me a little bit about your process when it comes to astrology marketing and astrology business strategy. Like, how does that all unfold? Can you kind of walk us through a glimpse into your experience?
Yes, absolutely. So it will always start with a birth chart analysis. So it's so funny because as we were talking, your sun sign, and I would say even like my 7-year-old parents know their sun signs, although I blame myself for that. But that's very well known. Most people are aware of that. But what's interesting is it goes so much deeper than that. So if you want to get to the next level, you can figure out your big three. So find out your sun, which is who you truly are. That's why most of us relate to it so heavily. Our moon sign is our emotions and our inner child. And then our rising or ascendant is the persona or the mask that everyone else sees. So when someone first meets you, they will probably think you're more like that. So for instance, if you have a square, so there are certain placements that are unfavorable in your chart between your ascendant and your sun, that can be problematic because people think you're this totally different person. And once they start a relationship with you, they're like, oh, wait a second. So those are 3 really important factors of your personality. And then when you get deeper, you see all of your placements. So how your communication is, what your love language is. And because this can get so complex, and that was actually part of what held me back a little bit in the beginning, is astrology is very complex. I've seen people using human design, which makes sense because they have the 5 personas. It's a little more organized, I guess. Astrology is just so intense. However, the great thing about it is categorized by elements. So every sign is categorized as water, fire, earth, or air. So I realized instead of, going into every single chart in a more generalized way, you can actually look at your chart and see what element you have dominant and what element you're missing. Now, some people, so it's the 10 main placements, we'll add this up. So obviously you can have 3, 3, 3, 1, or, things like that. I've actually, a few of my friends, and they're usually the most normal people, have like 3, 3, 2, 2. I'm like, oh, of course you're like very balanced. And then some people are completely lacking something or completely like only have almost one element. So what's great about that is, so if you're pretty balanced, you might not even need this kind of work, but if you have a dominant in something, that's where you find out what marketing platforms you're actually going to show up the most authentically. So for instance, if you're water dominant, so even though you're Scorpio, you could have like tons of fire, you could have Moon, Mercury, Mars, all in Leo or Aries or something. So fire people are going to show up best on video. But if you're just full water, tons of Pisces, Cancer, they're going to hate being on video and in public. So what I'm working through is, you follow the greats like Rachel Peterson and Jenna Kutcher, and they're amazing, but they often tell you a strategy that you kind of like have to do you have to be on TikTok. You should be on Reels. Not everyone should, though, is the thing. Because for some people, it's going to feel really uncomfortable, and then they're just going to feel broken, like they can't be an entrepreneur because that's not who they are, and it's just not natural. So what I do is I find out, okay, this is your main personality. This is, what's going to work for you. And I even have different funnels per element. So your free guy or your freebie for a water is not the same as an air, so that everything you're doing aligns with your energy. Yeah. So
I love that you kind of started us out with the human design aspect of like you said, it's a little bit more familiar out in the world. People are using this because it's so easy to kind of, I guess, for the lack of a better term, put people in boxes, 5 boxes. And then people are like, oh, you're a manifesting generator. I see you. But it's so much more, that what you're doing is much more custom and individualized to the person. And that makes so much sense with the analogy that, we're talking about, the amazing Jenna Kutchers of the world putting these strategies out, and you're like, what is wrong with me? This does not work. But it's actually, there's nothing wrong with you, and there's nothing wrong with Jenna's strategy. It's just that that's not the one for you.
Yes.
I love what you're doing. So cool.
And it's funny because I love all of those people. The amount of free value they give us is incredible. But what I started realizing as I'm working, as I was starting to work with more and more clients, because you really have to get all of the clients to understand these things. I was kind of like, wait, I'm telling everyone they need to be on Instagram and Facebook, and that's just not true. Like she doesn't want to do a reel for me. She doesn't want to be on stories every day. It's clearly not comfortable for her. And then they're expecting this crazy ROI, but you're not using the platform properly. So, not to sound mean or anything, but if you're not going to show up on that space the way that makes you successful, then what's the point of wasting your money, energy, and time? But I'm telling you, you don't have to do that, though. You don't have to make 10 reels a week and hate your life because I'm dominant fire, so I love reels, but there are definitely people that won't like that. And the great thing is, it's like it makes you also feel special, because it's like, I love that you brought up Marvel. I kind of call it your superpowers. It's like these things that you're born with that, it's like you can't argue it. It's a confidence booster to me. I actually do an exercise with people. I did it during the Leo full moon, because that's on the 16th, we were all probably feeling ourselves or feeling pretty self-focused. So sometimes it can be negative because you're just amplifying who you are, but it might have not been, negative or positive. But my exercise is you go through your chart, and because there's shadow work, which is working with your weaknesses. And then there's just confidence building, which is looking at all your positives that you have that no one else, maybe a few people out there, but pretty much no one else has. So you go through your chart and you look through every single positive trait that is listed, and you just copy and paste it onto a Google document. And I call it your astrology resume. And those are the things you're good at. No matter what, you feel bad one day, you had a fight with your husband, you can't get clients this month. You look at that sheet and you go, but I'm an awesome writer. Like, I'm really good with connecting to people. So those things that other people don't have. And I think we all forget that we are special. And, not everyone has that. So,
Oh my gosh. The folks that are listening can't see it, but just I had my hand on my heart because I feel like, often when I'm talking to clients, we focus on the things that we don't have. Like, it's like, I wish I had, X amount of followers or a number of clients or a number of dollars coming in. And those kind of like outcome goals overshadow like your actual like process goals, or focusing in on the things that you're already putting out into the world. You're already serving, as in the written word, as an example. You're already serving your people in so many ways that we tend to forget, because it's just us. It's like, it's who we are as people, and that just is not our focus. We're focused on the lack. But I love that your process also, that it's called a resume and a Google Doc. You're speaking my languages, coming from corporate, and I love Google Docs and everything, but just having, I know, my whole life. It's just so, and that's just so accessible, because it's like, you kind of, okay, having a rough day, open up my awesome doc, take a look, and just be reminded. And it's not someone telling you, it's actually you telling you, which I think is even more powerful.
yes, exactly. And it's, like for me, it's almost my form of religion where, there's some things people have beliefs in. I believe in astrology, through and through. And for me, it's those traits that are just, I can't question and I can't damage and I can't have imposter syndrome over, because it's just like listed in the stars. It's just written. It's my destiny. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then on the other side too, I do a lot of mindset work on shadow work, because on the other side of the coin, you'll see a lot on social media, people, if you're in any astrology group, they always make fun of certain signs and things. And they're just saying, like, they met like one person with this sun sign at one point, they didn't like them, so now they bash on the sign. The beauty in astrology is everything is yin and yang. So everything is balanced. Every sign, every planet, every placement has a good and a bad. And it's just about, if you're taking care of yourself and balanced, the good traits it's easier for them to flourish than if you have a lot of bad thoughts and you're just not treating yourself right, then the shadow side is going to show. So, just working through that with just even simple journal exercises. I love tapping. Tapping is very powerful. Yeah. And even tarot cards. I mean, I'm obsessed with. I love using that as well, just as an exercise. Anything that's outside of yourself that can give you that, it takes the emotion out of things. It's always very, very useful, especially in business.
Oh my gosh. Yes, because in business, all of our stuff is brought up, which is something no one told me ever. But all, the good, the light, the bad, the shadow, like all of it will be magnified to the tenfold when you're building a business. And these types of tools, in addition to, journaling and mindset work and tarot and all of our movement exercises or our body work, like EFT, like that's the stuff that brings us back home and brings us back to balance. So this is basically another tool in our kit, which is so cool.
Yes, exactly. And yes, and I was going also to get into the marketing too, because just to let you know, because that's like the process. But I also want to touch on, because it's always so much to say in one answer. But so you have your dominant element, and that's kind of how you figure out how you're going to market. But then you find your missing element, and those are actually the people you can help the most. Because what ends up happening is, I always use myself as an example. Like, it's hard not to. Say you're fire earth dominant, you're going to help water air people the most, because all of those amazing traits you have, those other people are missing. So what ends up happening is but this gets tricky, because naturally you're going to attract the same element. So the people you should be married to, the people you should be friends with, although friends can go either way, people you maybe own a business with, like the boss babes, one's a Virgo, one's a Capricorn. I was like, of course they are. So that works for that. And you will attract clients if you're not paying attention to your messaging that are just like you. But what happens is you can help them. I mean, you can help anyone if you're an expert in your field, but you can't help them at the level that you can when someone's the exact opposite of you. So when you work with someone who is not like you at all, it's just like my coaches have to be water or air. Because when I work with other earth, it's just they're too similar to me. So what you can do is obviously we can't all do birth charts for everyone. Luckily, I get to, which is awesome. I'm very happy about that. But obviously, I'm not going to tell you to go take someone's chart. So you just have to learn to message towards that element. So you're probably very familiar with copywriting and everything in marketing. So there's the different ways you can market, which some people, tangibles, numbers. Do you really have proof that you've done this? Do you have, how much money did you make that client and what kind of amount of time? So that's going to be attracting earth people. They want tangibles. They don't care about, this amazing breakthrough story you had, maybe a little bit, but it's not what's going to sell them. And then water people are the opposite, where it's all emotion and connection. If they feel like they connect to you and, you really care and empathize about them, they'll buy from you with no social proof just because they love you, like it's a relationship. Then fire people want to feel like pumped up and inspired and just like, let's go, And then air people are really interested in knowledge. So they always want to be taught something. So that's like your value post and even, kind of like what I'm doing where it's a little something different. That's pretty interesting to them. So they want to learn. So if you can teach them something that's interesting and different than they've ever heard, they're going to buy from you. So that's the marketing.
That is fascinating. And that's something that, if you're listening right now, that you could, I'm sure, or you could figure out really quickly, either on your own or with Laura's help, what your sign is and what your element is, and start taking note of like, what kind of posts are you putting out? What's your copy like? Just for a little experiment, just start reading it. And it's like, does that align with who I'm trying to attract, or is it actually doing the opposite? Which is like, that's fascinating. Very, very actionable.
Well, and a lot of us end up, especially in the beginning, when you haven't crafted your marketing yet, you tend to talk to yourself. You know what I mean? Like a lot of my clients, I'm like, and it's one thing if you're talking to the past version of yourself, but yourself like that week, just because you're struggling with it or just because that's what you want to hear, doesn't mean that's what your ideal audience needs to hear. It's hard. I'm lacking water, so it's hard for me to get emotional sometimes, but I try to share my story and things like that, because those are the people I want to work with. So.
Yeah. And that just makes so much sense. I love how you've kind of broken that apart and for marketing and copy. And that's, even if you're not a marketer, that seems to be like very, very approachable. So I know you must be helping so many people just from that lens. It's really, really, really cool stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So, that was probably one of a really actionable tip. Like if there are a couple other tips that you have for us, like how do people start implementing astrology in their marketing, aside from, kind of figuring out their chart and their elements, like taking a little peek at their copy? What other tip do you have for us?
So that's like the foundation of really getting into you and your self-awareness. But if you wanted to be a little more broad, I also teach all about lunar launching. So using the moon's energy in your business is amazing. And I know a lot of women will do like their cycles and usually the moon syncs with that. So it's really powerful. You can use it for a lot of things. But what I use it to realize is what kind of mood is everyone going to be in? So for instance, during the new moon is when you set intentions, when you start kind of thinking of things, creating things. That's not an ideal time to get on sales calls or try to sell a bunch of things or even make connections, that's really a great time to go inside and write your plan. Like, do I need a new service this month? I actually batch my content during the new moon. So I'll do my 30-day calendar in that time because I'm really like introspective and just I can really go deep with those kind of things. And then you kind of pretty much go around the 28 days of, okay, so that's where you start. And then the first quarter is when you start really starting to sell and start talking about it, open the cart kind of a thing. So this is happening. I'm going to do this cool thing. This is great. And then it's so funny because I think the full moon has a bad rep because, lunatics and all that, but it's actually the reason things like that happen is people aren't, they've kind of let their guard down during the full moon. So it's a great time to sell. Like people are like, here's my card. No worries. I don't care. They're not thinking about things. They're really acting. And it's a great time to network. So if you're not really ready to sell, that's a great time to maybe find a new group, find new people and hop on some calls because you'll feel a little more into talking than maybe working at that point. And then, of course, with any good strategy, you want to end the month off with reflecting. So whether you got full out launch, you got all of the signups you needed, or you had no one, it's always good to just reflect on why that worked. Why didn't it? Rest, take your rest. I fought that so much when I started my business, taking time off, right? You're Scorpio, so you're super determined. But the funny thing is, that's why Scorpio is such an interesting sign. It's one of the ones that's kind of, it's its own element to me. But you also, as water, need your rest. Water is the most feminine element. And actually, really, water and the moon are also very cohesive. So you need rest. You need self-care more than anyone. So, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. I spent, some that we were talking before we were recording is, 15 years in a corporate setting where no one thinks like this. No one understands, the need for life beyond, the 9 to 5 or working over the weekend or whatever it is. It's just like, this is the calendar. This is when we're launching the thing. This is when you need to be here. This is like, et cetera, which we all know. But the moon, the planets, the stars, astrology is a lot older, I'll just say, than the industrial complex. So like, this is the stuff that I feel like should be so much more available and so much more widely shared because, this is the stuff that I think stops people from feeling misunderstood in their own bodies. Like, why am I so tired right now? Everybody else is going. Like, I should be able, and the shoulds pile up, the shoulds as far as their business piles up. And, we just end up burnt out when, we just need new information and a new way of being. So I love this.
Thank you. And another important thing too is realizing, and this is almost controversial.
Bring it on.
So I gotta say, so the way it's like the old school astrology, earth and water are feminine and air and fire are masculine. Although with earth, it's a little funny because earth does love to work, but it's in a feminine way. Like they really care about taking care of everyone and getting everything done. If you think of like almost a mom, like type of a stereotype. But what'll happen is if a female has a ton of masculine energy and masculine placements, she might actually feel guilty that she can't relax and doesn't like to, take a 2-hour bath. And she's like, what's wrong with me? I really don't want to take a nap and that's also, I think, with self-care, just kind of realizing that do what feels good. It can be so many different things, whatever feels right to you. And that all comes back to being self-aware and just realizing you are your own person. Find everything that feels good to you and your energy and protect that.
Yeah. And that's such a good point. It's just like you were saying earlier, the other side of the coin is this, everybody is kind of going through an awakening right now when it comes to like, the need for self-care and it sometimes self-care goes beyond bath and massage and all the things that we've been kind of put out into the world. But two, if that's not a match for you in that moment, it's also okay to work on your own schedule, on your own time, and bring in that self-care, or I've recently heard it called self-reverence, in different ways. I know, isn't that, I was just like really liking that right now, because I feel like self-care almost has gotten a little too buzzy. It's like that reverence part, it just kind of has a different lens. It's like, self-care or self-reverence might look completely different than your friends or your neighbors, or mine versus yours. And that's okay. It's totally okay.
Exactly.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So, okay, if you could go back in your business, or a previous version of you in your corporate career and marketing and anything, past Laura, if you could go back and tell her something that would save you a big headache or a few sleepless nights, what would it be?
Oof. Yeah, just like stop trying to be something that you're not. That's why, even if you're not the deepest believer in astrology, or you think it's a little, my dad calls it space magic, for instance. He's not a believer, but he's also a Virgo sun, Capricorn rising. So of course he's like, no. It's funny too when those people question it, and I'm like, you're your signs though. It's just like hilarious to me. But whether you take it or leave it, it's just like a really fun exercise, and just to see what's out there and see what it does say this means about you. And I mean, I don't think I have these mini sessions if someone's not ready to invest fully in coaching and masterminds, just to do a birth chart analysis and then put it into your business and strategy. And I have never done a birth chart reading for someone that their head didn't explode, just like, whoa. Because if you, for instance, because you're a Scorpio, but if we found out your moon, which we should do after this is over, we should look at your chart real quick, but
sounds fun.
Yes. And if your moon is something completely opposite, you might be like, oh, that's why that doesn't always add up. But it's just like all of these layers, like peeling away layers of who you are. And it's just really fun, even if, you take it or leave it, but I love it.
Yes. Those little bits of self-discovery are always just really juicy. And like you said, it's like, you take what you need from it. And if it's not for you, that's okay too. That's what you took from it is, you discovered a little something different, and maybe you pass it on to, a partner or somebody you're having a difficult conversation with. You're like, well, Laura said I was et cetera, and that's probably why I'm acting this way. And they're like, oh, and it helped them understand the situation better. So anyway, there's all this to be said. It's all learning. It's all self-discovery, and we take what we need and we leave the rest. And I think that's just awesome.
Thank you.
So good. Yeah. So you mentioned some mini sessions. I know you have some other cool stuff. So tell us a little bit about it. We'd love to know.
Yay. I'm all about giving things away for free. So I did just finish my free training, which pretty much covers the entire method. So it's astrology business alignment method. And that's a great start. I even share where you can find your birth charts. So you can actually do some of these exercises on your own, and you can have it pulled up while you're following along with the class. So you can really make it all work for you. And then you can learn who your missing element is and how to start, transitioning your messaging a little bit. And like you said, like, just think of it as an experiment. Just see who starts reaching out to you. And it's really fun. So, I have that. And then if you just want really a birth chart reading and someone to interpret it and how it would fit into your business, I've had amazing breakthroughs with this, because like a lot of people, they're just not sure what they should be offering or how they should offer it. So I help with that, help with the marketing and what platforms you should show up on, which is also shared in my free training as well, because I think that's a really important element to owning a business. And then I am opening my first mastermind with this. It's going to start on the new moon in April. So, which is, building intentions, creating all of the things. So I'm very excited about that. Yeah. So
beautiful. You have so many amazing things and just so many tools to help people with their businesses and better understand themselves, really at the end of the day. And we'll include links to all of that in the show notes so people can check it out. And highly encourage you guys to check it out. I'm going to, because that sounds awesome. I want to learn more. And then how can we find you if we want to stay connected?
Yay. So I am mostly on Instagram. I am fire dominant. So you'll see my reels all over the place. I'm at Laura_Kasl, Kasl. And then I just launched my new website with all my new astrology goodness at laurakasl.com.
Cool. We'll include both of those too, so people can follow you and check out your new amazing website. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here today. This is awesome. I cannot wait to share this episode with everybody.
It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much, Jess.
Did you enjoy that chat just as much as I did? I loved talking to Laura, and she's just so generous with all of her knowledge, and I had so much fun, and I learned so much about myself, which I know is going to impact my marketing. I hope you had the same experience. So definitely go give Laura a follow. You can follow her on Instagram at Laura_Kasl. Kasl is spelled Kasl. You can also find her at laurakasl.com. And I have the links to her mastermind and her incredible free training in the show notes. So definitely go check those out, get her incredible offers, and go get to know her. She's just so much fun. So I can't wait to have you back for the next episode. I'll catch you on the other side. Thanks for listening to the Marketing Off the Mat podcast. I love hanging with you as we figure this thing out together. Do you have an idea or something to share with me? Send me a DM on Instagram at jessicacross.co and let me know what's on your mind. I'd be so grateful if you shared this with someone who could use this episode. And if you get a chance, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Catch you on the next episode. See ya.